2024 has been a year of profound activism and social movements, with protests emerging globally on a wide array of issues. From climate justice to demands for political reforms, these movements have mobilized millions of people and garnered significant media attention. The diversity and scale of these protests underscore the growing public discontent and the urgent need for change. Here are the top 10 protests and social movements that have defined the year so far. Number 10. Misinformation and digital activism. The rapid spread of misinformation has been a critical concern. Digital activists are tackling this by organizing online campaigns and virtual protests aimed at promoting digital literacy and combating fake news. Platforms such as Zoom and various social media networks have become essential tools for these activists. By educating the public on how to identify and avoid misinformation, they hope to foster a more informed and critical society. This movement emphasizes the need for accurate information dissemination and the ethical responsibilities of tech companies in managing the content on their platforms. Digital activism has also facilitated broader participation in movements. The accessibility of virtual protests allows individuals from different geographical and socioeconomic backgrounds to engage in activism. This inclusivity is vital in creating a diverse and united front against misinformation. Number 9. Anti-government protests in Belarus. Since the controversial presidential election of 2020, Belarus has been in a state of ongoing civil unrest. The re-election of President Alexander Lukashenko, widely regarded as fraudulent, sparked mass protests demanding his resignation, free elections, and the release of political prisoners. Despite harsh government crackdowns, including arrests and violence against protesters, the movement has persisted into 2024 with strong international support. These protests have highlighted the resilience of the Belarusian people and their commitment to democratic values. International organizations and foreign governments have condemned the actions of the Lukashenko regime, providing moral and, in some cases, financial support to the protesters. The sustained nature of these protests demonstrates the unyielding desire for democratic reforms and human rights in Belarus, making it one of the most significant movements of the year. Number 8. Palestinian solidarity protests. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict has seen renewed attention, with global protests advocating for Palestinian rights and statehood. These protests have been particularly prominent in response to continued violence and perceived injustices in the region. Major cities in Europe, North America, and beyond have witnessed large demonstrations calling for an end to the occupation and greater international intervention to ensure Palestinian sovereignty. The solidarity shown by global citizens underscores the widespread concern for human rights and justice. These protests have not only kept the issue in the international spotlight, but have also pressured governments to reconsider their foreign policies regarding the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The movement has successfully galvanized a diverse coalition of supporters, from grassroots activists to prominent political figures, all advocating for a peaceful resolution and the protection of Palestinian rights. Number 7. Immigration and border protests in the USA. Immigration remains a hot-button issue in the United States, with 2024 seeing a continuation of protests at the southern border. Activists have rallied against the treatment of migrants, particularly the conditions in detention centers and the harsh policies affecting asylum seekers. These protests have been critical in highlighting the humanitarian crisis and pushing for comprehensive immigration reform. The debate over immigration policy has also intensified political divisions, with progressive groups advocating for more humane treatment of migrants, while conservative factions demand stricter border controls. The protests have drawn attention to the systemic issues within the immigration system, including the need for policy changes that prioritize human rights and dignity. The involvement of various advocacy groups and non-governmental organizations has been instrumental in providing support and resources to migrants, further emphasizing the urgency of reforming immigration policies in the United States. Number 6. Lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender rights movements. Lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender rights movements have seen significant activity, particularly in countries where recent legislative actions have threatened to roll back protections. In Poland and Hungary, large-scale protests have erupted in response to laws that restrict lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender rights, drawing international condemnation and solidarity protests worldwide. These movements have focused on achieving equal rights and combating discrimination. Pride events have transformed into powerful demonstrations of resistance and resilience, showcasing the community's strength and unity. The protests have also highlighted the intersectionality of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender issues with other social justice causes, such as racial and gender equality, amplifying their impact. Advocacy for lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender rights has become a global phenomenon, with activists leveraging international platforms to push for legal and societal changes. Number 5. Farmers' protest in India. The farmers' protests in India, which began in late 2020, have continued into 2024 with undiminished fervor. Farmers are protesting against agricultural reforms that they argue favor large corporations at the expense of small-scale farmers. The protests have included massive sit-ins, marches, and blockades, particularly in the capital, New Delhi. These protests have brought to light the deep-seated issues within India's agricultural sector and the plight of its farmers. The movement has garnered widespread support from various sections of Indian society and has received international attention. The farmers' resilience in the face of government indifference and harsh weather conditions underscores their determination to secure fair treatment and sustainable livelihoods. Number 4. Iranian women's rights movement. In Iran, the fight for women's rights has gained significant momentum. Women have been protesting against mandatory hijab laws and broader gender discrimination, facing severe crackdowns by the authorities. Despite the risks, these protests have continued to grow, with women demanding greater freedoms and equal rights. The movement has gained international attention, with global human rights organizations calling for solidarity and action against the Iranian government's oppressive policies. The bravery of Iranian women has inspired similar movements in other restrictive societies, highlighting the universal struggle for gender equality. The protests have also sparked debates within Iran about the role of women in society and the need for comprehensive reforms to address gender-based discrimination and violence. Number 3. Pro-democracy protest in Hong Kong. The pro-democracy movement in Hong Kong has persisted in its struggle against increasing control by the Chinese government. Despite stringent national security laws that have led to the arrest of many activists and a clampdown on dissent, the movement continues to push for democratic freedoms and human rights. The protests in Hong Kong have become a symbol of resistance against authoritarianism, drawing international support and attention. The movement's resilience has highlighted the determination of Hong Kong's citizens to protect their autonomy and democratic values. The global community has responded with various forms of support, from public statements to economic sanctions against Chinese officials, reflecting the broader implications of Hong Kong's struggle for democracy. Number 2. Black Lives Matter. The Black Lives Matter movement remains a powerful force, continuing its advocacy against systemic racism and police brutality. The movement has organized numerous protests across the United States following several high-profile incidents of police violence. BLM has also expanded its focus to include issues of economic justice, educational reform, and voter suppression affecting marginalized communities. The impact of BLM has been profound, influencing public discourse and policy changes at local, state, and national levels. The movement's emphasis on intersectionality has brought together diverse groups advocating for racial justice, amplifying their collective voice. The global resonance of BLM has also spurred similar movements in other countries, highlighting the pervasive nature of racial injustice and the need for a concerted effort to address it. Number 1. Climate justice movements. Climate activism remains a pivotal force in 2024. Groups like Extinction Rebellion and Fridays for Future have continued to organize massive protests across the globe, demanding urgent action against climate change. These movements leverage both physical and digital spaces, with virtual protests becoming increasingly prominent due to lingering pandemic concerns. Activists employ a variety of strategies, including school strikes, sit-ins, and mass marches, to raise awareness and pressure governments into taking more decisive action. The use of social media platforms to mobilize supporters and spread their message has significantly amplified their reach. High-profile climate advocates like Greta Thunberg continue to inspire global youth participation, making climate activism one of the most dynamic and inclusive movements today. That's all for today's video. Please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to click the bell icon to receive notifications on our newest uploads. Your support helps us bring more insightful content to you. See you in the next video.